Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. In the endless shadows of betrayal, where bloody truths tread softly and the line between love and revenge begins to blur, there lay a battleground forged by family ties and treachery. Mark stood at the precipice of a life he meticulously crafted from shards of neglect, each piece a painful reminder of the family that had cast him aside. Yet unbeknownst to him, the ghosts of his past were preparing a most unwelcome return, and like the sinister cold of an encroaching winter, they lingered just beyond the veil of his happiness. From the moment Mark had cut ties with his family, the weight of despair had been lifted, allowing him to breathe free. His years in military service had equipped him with a strong sense of purpose, and a woman he could cherish, Nadine, his brilliant fiancée whose resilience matched his own. Their love was a sanctuary amidst a world of cold neglect. Its foundation was built on mutual understanding and a fierce loyalty that chased away the darkness of their pasts. On rare occasions, however, the haunting past would rise in the form of memories, reflections of a childhood overshadowed by a cruel father and a golden child. Steve, Mark's tyrannical stepbrother. Steve, who had effortlessly eluded the military's grasp, played the prodigal son, while Mark's spirit had been crushed under the weight of family expectations. His father had groomed Steve for success, his every mistake painted over with the golden brush of entitlement, while Mark's struggles deemed unspeakable. How fitting it was that a mere address, a humble apartment shared with Nadine, should draw the specter of that legacy back to haunt him. Weeks passed in blissful ignorance, the couple nurturing their dreams on a sadly small budget, their lives filled with laughter and ambitious plans. Mark, who had lived in desperation, now cherished the freedom of new beginnings. But this tranquil atmosphere would soon be shattered, awoken by a single careless post on social media. In his excitement, Mark had declared his first home ownership, naively revealing the rent, how it was less than he had expected. The moment his estranged family caught wind of it, the dream morphing into a potential nightmare sent tremors through Mark's soul. Abruptly re-entering his life, they emerged with anger and entitlement sharpened into weapons, wielding their legacy as a bludgeon against his newfound happiness. A parade of letters ensued, his father's authoritative words dripped with condescension, demanding Mark surrender the apartment to Steve, as if it were an inheritance owed to the favored son. "You need to be a man about this, Mark. You must consider us, consider Steve. He deserves this more than you ever did." Each sentence curled around Mark like a snake, tightening its grip as fury and disbelief surged like venom through his veins. 3 months passed under this relentless siege. The constant phone calls, the demanding messages, and the threats made his blood run cold. "Family means sacrifice, Mark. Or are you so vindictive that you'll deny blood when it matters most?" His father's voice would sear through the silence like acid, reminding him that the scars ran deep, scars meant to be buried, though they throbbed with life. How could a family he had fought to forget still wield such control over his heart? The betrayal snaked deeper into Mark's chest, wrapping around his lungs, stifling any sense of warmth he had built. He had genuinely thought he was done with them, yet here they were, clawing back with insatiable greed disguised as kinship. His response? Silence. He couldn't let them sense his unease. Every moment they lingered felt like another wound, another reminder of inadequacy. Instead, he planned. He plotted. The price of vigilance was steep, yet it was a currency Mark was willing to pay. That tension between father and son ignited further when Steve's circumstances plunged. Once a proud owner of a failing business, Steve was now an empty vessel with a family depending on him, an ever-growing pressure that Mark could feel from the letter's tightly penned words. "You owe it to him. You to him. You took a comfortable life away." Mark's anger summoned a grievous bond within. As the letters continued flowing in waves of entitlement and blame, Mark decided he would teach them a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. His determination birthed a plan, weaving a web so convoluted it would ensnare them with the very fabric of their own deceit. He silently rejoiced. With nightfall, the darkness became his ally, while Nadine remained blissfully unaware. How could he taint their love with the grim realities of betrayal? Through the clandestine gathering of knowledge, Mark learned the intricacies of their familial entanglement. He knew about the rental agreements. He understood the bureaucracies of his job and the loopholes lurking within. His father's headstrong ambition to turn the tides of unfairness into an unyielding claim sparked an idea, a shimmering thread of revenge, a trap that would undo them in the most elegant way. The Customs Administration, a solid wall of regulations, held power over the apartment's fate. Since Mark was a civil servant dutifully working for his country, the privileges he held would unravel before his father's pleading eyes. Each letter would become a noose, each demand a reminder of wretched dispossession that his family had instilled in him for too long. But Mark would not forget the bitter taste of betrayal. He would use it to fuel the fire in his heart. While he navigated the fortress of red tape at work, the space around him thickened with anticipation. Weekends came and went, and yet the letters persisted, echoing through the dimensions of Mark's heart. Nadine noticed the subtle shift. "You're distant, love. What's wrong?" Her gentle inquiry pulled at him, but the secret was too explosive, and he shielded her with the mantle of his brave face. "It's nothing, Nadine. Just work preparing for some changes. You'll see. Everything will be wonderful soon," he lied softly, hiding the tumultuous storm brewing beneath his skin. Finally, it all reached a fever pitch. The last letter had arrived. It was a simple, arrogant piece of paper designed to intimidate, and it filled Mark with ferocious resolve. He had summoned his nerve and decided how far he was willing to go. Now was the time to act, and the taste of revenge tasted sweeter than anything his father might offer. Over the following days, Mark remained a ghost, flitting between shadows, whispering plans to the wind. He meticulously chronicled all correspondence, each letter staged like evidence, artifacts of the family's unwarranted entitlement. As Mark isolated himself further, thoughts spiraled, haunting visions of past holidays where laughter echoed yet held an undercurrent of disdain. Every memory nudged him forward, compelling him to sever chains far thicker than the family ties he had left behind. He cherished each moment his father railed, every emotion his brother displayed. There wouldn't be any doubt of his calculations. The reckoning was inevitable, and at this moment, he reigned as the architect of his own fate. As dusk fell, the first steps began to blur into action. Mark quietly made his way to his office, prepared to rendezvous with allies, both unexpected and scorned his co-workers. They were aware of the family's neglect, of what had transpired. Mark spilled the depths of his turmoil. They listened, eager to join the fray. Friendship had unfurled with each reluctant truth he shared, and a band of warriors prepared for a confrontation unlike any other. "You have every right to protect your space, Mark. We'll support you, come what may." One of his colleagues, a kindred spirit of sorts, gripped Mark's shoulder, igniting a sense of camaraderie. Soon after, another figure slipped into the shadows of the late evening. It was Nadine, worry traced on a familiar brow. "You're scheming something. I can feel it in my bones. Stop hiding and let me help you." Her voice sliced through the hushed air, awakening vulnerability within. Mark took a steady breath, seconds suspended in time as he contemplated revealing the truth to her. But the enormity of his plans felt monumental, every nuance tinged with the promise of heartache. "I will. I promise. But just not yet. I can't let you worry until I know what I'm dealing with." Mark reflected her concern, sifting through his emotions like turbulent waves crashing along rocky shores. Nadine withdrew slightly, disappointment mixed with love sparking a dreadful sense of guilt, yet he remained resolute. The extent of betrayal was yet to unfold, and those pieces would lead to him finally orchestrating the plan he had been brewing silently. With each passing moment, the betrayal burned deeper into his core, as the culmination of all that had been, and all that he had sacrificed, spiraled into the embodiment of revenge. With steely determination, Mark took one last look at the shadows of his past, now fully aware that the tides were shifting. The time for reckoning was near. Retribution awaited just around the bend, promising to end the cycle of betrayal and seal the wounds that had festered for too long. As the daylight faded, Mark set his plan into motion. eager to reclaim a life that should have never belonged to anyone but him. With the shadows closing, he braced himself for the storm ahead, a storm that would unearth all that was hidden and bring forth the reckoning his family so rightly deserved. As the wheels of fate whirred into motion, Mark shifted into overdrive, his anger morphing into calculated precision. He devoted himself to skimming through every policy, every loophole, the whispers of unfairness coiling around his resolve like barbed wire. In those dimly lit hours after work, line by line, he dismantled his family's delusions of entitlement with the knowledge he had amassed, gaining an almost perverse joy in discovering how he could cripple their perception of superiority. Nadine, sensing the storm within him, continually reached out, her warmth a beacon as Mark spiraled deeper into darkness. "You're not just fighting for yourself, Mark. You're fighting for us. I need you to trust me with this. Let me help," she implored during their evenings together, hers a blend of concern and indignation, as if to challenge the ghosts he had long fought to escape. In response, Mark had thought about the strength of the trust he carried. Yet, could he let her in on the truth without dragging her into the shadows? The thought swirled uncomfortably in his chest, but betraying that trust, his trust of her joy, seemed worse. Days merged into weeks as the clock ticked towards the appointed moment. Mark's meticulous assembly of evidence amassed like a fortress ready to be fortified. His workplace became a sanctuary, where each colleague familiar with his struggle reinforced his purpose, filling the voids of hatred with solidarity. Discussions evolved into strategies, and those strategies transformed into a singular action plan. Mark would catch his family off guard, exposing their entitlement and greed for the world to witness. Finally, the day arrived. Tension crackled in the air as he prepared to pull the trigger. Mark stood before the mirror, fixing his tie, a ritualistic act of defiance movement that sparked memories of his childhood. As he stared into his reflection, resentment bubbled like molten lava. He had wrestled with shame far too long. This was his moment. "Are you ready for this?" Nadine asked, breaking his trance. She held his gaze with a ferocity that burned brighter than any of his fears. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, every fiber of his being vibrating with anticipation. The confrontation was staged at his family's home, a place once littered with echoes of regret and spite. As they arrived, Mark's heart hammered against the cage of his ribs. The house loomed ahead like a fortress built on the ashes of deceit, every brick laid with guilt from the past, tangled twine his family had woven in their web of wounds. Inside, the atmosphere thickened, tension palpable as if thick honey suffocated them. Steve was the first to greet them, the familiar handsome face twisted in practiced charm. "Mark, I'm surprised you decided to visit. Why the sudden interest in our abode?" The jest laid heavy on the tongue, sarcastic yet revealing. Mark stepped into the den, drawing attention like a black hole consuming the space. "I'm not here to reminisce. Instead, I've come to discuss your recent letters." His voice crackled, deep-rooted indignation intertwining with determination. Steve's smile faded, replaced by a thin veneer of irritation. "Those were just family matters, Mark. You see, Mom and Dad are worried about you." Mark's brow furrowed, a smile laden with irony spreading across his lips. "Worried enough to repeatedly demand that I abandon my apartment." Steve's expression hardened, the tension palpable. "Family support is a reasonable request, considering I'm trying to raise a second child," he retorted, desperation creeping into his voice, aging himself beneath the weight of resentment, making excuses as if they could justify their actions. The room grew eerily silent after Mark spoke again, his voice steady, unwavering. "I have more than just letters and more than family matters to discuss. I've spoken with my colleagues, and today, the Customs Administration will have a say in the matter that concerns you and your family quite prominently." "I don't know what you're talking about," Steve stammered for the first time. The arrogance shattered, and beneath it was real fear. From the depths of his briefcase, Mark withdrew the folders, the printed evidence of their transgressions. "I know. Not only do these details confirm your fraudulent claims, but they also expose your manipulative demands. Do you think it's okay to simply take what isn't yours?" The damning sounds echoed off the walls as family burst into the room, eyes flitting between Mark and Steve like polarized magnets. Their denials fell flat, horror creeping as he turned each paper page, the crucial ingredients of his familial wreckage unwinding in real time. I've been given every opportunity to make this right, but the only thing I have received is your entitlement, the burden of accumulated grievances pressing on my soul. You demanded my kindness, and I have finally seen the worth of my defiance. With each proclamation, he could feel strength coursing through him. Mark glanced over to Nadine, whose face shone with pride, her unwavering support fueling his resolve, while invokes of reassurance filled the room. His colleagues loomed just outside the door, prepared to show up at any moment if unnecessary escalation threatened precision. The whispers of betrayal fell silent now, replaced by a deadly tension that echoed. But just as victory seemed nigh, Mark's father stormed in, the embodiment of poisonous authority. His face bled disbelief, each wrinkle digging deeper into his skin as he witnessed his empire fall apart. This is absurd. Who do you think you are, Mark? Just because you work for them doesn't mean you get to dictate our family. His voice quaked in anger, yet control slipped as he sensed the tide turning. The clock had struck. This was the crescendo of their betrayal. Armed with every shred of insight, ire flared within. Mark planted his feet, his heart roaring loud, refusing to yield before the throne of injustice. I'm the man who stood taller than you ever allowed me to. The man who refused to give in to your whims. You took pride in calling me dead to you, but now I stand before you, a living testament to my defiance. So remember this moment. Today, you lose everything. With the final words unleashed, a chill permeated the air, thick and unyielding, an echo of finality reverberating through this once broken family, now brought to its knees. Nadine's hand joined his, a striking symbol as they walked to the door, where Mark's allies stood prepared to step into the fray at a moment's notice. Turning on his heel, he cast one lingering look back at them, every family member captured in tableau of confusion and disbelief. He was done playing the role of the sacrificial lamb. This had been a burned bridge of their making, a legacy of shame and despair, buried deep within layers of fabric, each thread now fraying at the edges. Remember, I'm not as weak as you believed. With that, he turned back, the finality hitting like a dagger, a killer line ripping through blood, subtly reverberating through Steve's disillusioned disbelief. The silence cut sharper than words ever could. Stepping outside, Nadine squeezed Mark's hand, an anchor against the chaos swirling within their past. What's next? Now we heal. Mark's spirit surged, reborn amidst the ruins of familial treachery. Theirs would be a legacy forever tarnished in the wake of the pain they had created. There would be no reconciliation, no hallowed ground sown again. In that grand finale, Mark emerged more than a simple escapee from traumas. He had harnessed wrath into resolve, painted over regrets with the light of revenge. As they drove away, farther from echoes of betrayal, Mark realized this was merely the beginning. The path to true freedom loomed ahead, a promise of a future unchained, the dark ghosts of his past fading beneath layers of certainty. Revenge would breathe life into a new tale, transforming hurt into the possibility of rebirth. The scars would remain, but they had also carved strength. The last remnants of that haunting call lingered somewhere in the rear-view mirror, a silent promise never to fall prey. Pegay, Mark reclaimed not just his space but his identity, and no matter how long or fierce the storm, he would forever stand firm against the current, always moving forward, forever vigilant against the currents of betrayal. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like.